I think that we have an enormous opportunity. I think, as one of my faculty members said recently, our models about teaching and learning are shifting beneath our feet, and that we need to be in much deeper conversation with one another. We need to be in deeper conversation with our students around how to take advantage of that. Well, thanks a lot for the opportunity to speak to you, and I apologize for not being able to be there in person. Lately, I've been very involved in helping the state develop its Race to the Top proposal. And in conversations with folks from around the state, these conversations have really reinforced my belief that technology really provides us with a vehicle for addressing some of our major challenges, long existing challenges that we've had. And among these, and among the most important, is how best to help educators at different stages in their development develop the skills and knowledge that we know they need to be able to help all children learn. So, of course, Learn-NC has been in the forefront of providing learning opportunities for educators, particularly practicing educators, for a couple of decades. And our hope is to tighten the work that has been going on between the faculty in the School of Education and the very excellent staff at Learn-NC. The School of Education actually represents a wealth of experience and expertise in a whole range of areas, from early childhood to elementary mathematics to literacy across the grades and across the subject matters, to rural education, to adolescent transitions, to counseling, to educational leadership. And increasingly, faculty within the school are interested in how technology can help both them and their students do a better job teaching. Now, I think one of the challenges is how to make the opportunities that Learn-NC provides even more effective and accessible to educators. A key here is getting better measures of the effects that the learning opportunities provided through Learn-NC are having on educators' practice and on student learning. The field, as many of you know, has a very poor record of conducting the kind of rigorous evaluation and research that needs to happen if we're able to be able to identify the kinds of learning opportunities that should be supported and we should go forward with. I think another challenge we're facing is how to use Learn-NC to support the types of professional learning communities that seem essential for both teacher retention and increased effectiveness. So one of the challenges we have is not only that beginning teachers tend to leave the classroom at an unacceptably high rate, but it's also the case that students in the classroom who have beginning teachers typically achieve at a lower level than students who have more experienced teachers. So it's both how do we create the kinds of supportive learning communities in the schools that bring in these early career educators, make them part of that community early on, and provide them with the support they need both to feel successful and to be successful. And I apologize, but there's a very interesting sports story that I read along these very lines and made me think about this. The St. Louis Cardinals have been very successful over the last decade, and a lot of that is due to their pitching and their pitching coach, a guy by the name of Dave Duncan. And one of the things Duncan instituted was sort of a collaborative approach to pitching, so that when a pitcher is throwing in practice, all the other pitchers come around and watch him pitch. And then what you have is you have a collection of professionals focused on the practice, as it were, of another professional and providing feedback based on their experience and knowledge to that individual. And a good example of how that works is Recently, John Smoltz, who's going to be a Hall of Fame teacher, was released by the Red Sox, picked up by the Cardinals, and in the first session that he had throwing with the other pitchers watching, they immediately picked up that he was tipping his pitches. And he's been phenomenally better than he was with the Red Sox because of that. That's an example of having a professional community that's focused directly in on an individual's practice with the intention of using the collective knowledge in order to improve this individual's practice. And of course, teachers are doing this. It's not as though this isn't happening. I think if you look at the research of Susan Moore Johnson and her students, particularly Susan Cardos, and their research on teachers' professional learning communities, you'll see a similar sort of phenomenon. The other thing that the professional learning communities need is they need information. I mean, it's not as though any given professional community has all of the knowledge that's needed. So what those learning communities need is they need information on effective strategies, new ideas for practice, new ideas about curriculum that are being fed in and sort of chewed over by the group collectively and perhaps tried out, observed, refined, and so forth. So that's another role, I think, that LearnNC plays and can continue to play. And I think some schools, of course, need, and particularly educational leaders in those schools, whether it's teachers or it's principals, also need examples of what professional learning communities look like. How are they created? How do they operate? How are they sustained? And so forth, which is, again, something that LearnNC could do. Just some thoughts I had about where I think the challenges are for the work that we're doing and the challenges for us as we think about how do we better capitalize on both the evolving technology and the changing student population that we're dealing with. You know, now the folks who come into our pre-service programs, particularly in our undergraduate program, they're folks that don't know a world without the internet. You know, whatever you want to call them, digital natives or what have you. That's a great opportunity for us. So learning how to capitalize on that, and that's true in spades as you go pre-college. So how do we take advantage of whether it's Facebook or it's Twitter, YouTube, whatever, the technologies that we know our students are already using. And that's something that I think where we can really learn from our students if we create the opportunities for them to help us understand how they use these technologies. There's some very good research going on, both here at the School of Ed on this. I think of the work that Janice Anderson and Jeff Green are doing, but around the country as well. I thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you. Again, I apologize for not being there in person, and I wish you all the best in the upcoming events that you have in the conference. Thank you.